The future of the global economy is being built in Indian cities. These are not the crowded famous cities of India. These are hyper-modern, built from scratch next-generation manufacturing hubs designed specifically to dethrone traditional industrial giants across the world. Yet because they are rising silently from rural blueprints to global economic engines, most of the world does not even know their names. Today we are covering 7 such next-generation Indian manufacturing hubs. Here they are, and here is what each one is building. Number 1. Tumakuru, Bangalore. Bangalore is known globally as India's technology capital. The city that built the country's software industry, attracted the Indian operations of every major global technology company, and produced generations of engineers who now work at the highest levels of the global tech economy. What is less understood about Bangalore is that the city is simultaneously one of India's most significant manufacturing centers. Defense electronics, aerospace components, machine tools, industrial equipment, and a vast auto component manufacturing ecosystem all operate alongside the software towers that dominate Bangalore's public image. The manufacturing demand generated by Bangalore's growth has long been pressing against the limits of the city's industrial land availability. Land in Bangalore is expensive, contested, and increasingly consumed by the residential and commercial development that a population of over 12 million people generates. Manufacturing companies that need large footprints, heavy infrastructure, and space to expand cannot easily find what they need inside the city limits. They need an alternative. Tumakuru Industrial Township is that alternative. Located in Tumakuru district approximately 120 kilometers north of Bangalore, the township is being developed under the Chennai-Bangalore Industrial Corridor and spans roughly 8,500 acres across multiple phases. The first phase is currently under active development with infrastructure installation underway across the site. The industrial sectors targeted for Tumakuru span a deliberately broad range: electronics, automotive components, engineering goods, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, textiles, food processing, and general manufacturing. This breadth reflects the nature of Tumakuru's competitive advantage, which is not specialization in a single industry, but proximity to one of India's most diverse and technically sophisticated manufacturing and technology ecosystems. A company that sets up in Tumakuru can draw on Bangalore's pool of engineers, technicians, and managers. It can work with Bangalore's supplier networks. It can attend industry events, access research institutions, and engage with customers and partners in a city that is already deeply embedded in global technology and manufacturing supply chains. The plug-and-play infrastructure model being implemented at Tumakuru means that industrial plots will be delivered to tenants with roads, power, water, drainage, and telecommunications already in place. The first phase alone is projected to attract investment of approximately 7,000 crore rupees and generate close to 88,000 jobs over the next 5 to 6 years. If both phases are developed as planned, Tumakuru will become one of the largest manufacturing townships in southern India. And Bangalore will finally have the industrial shadow it has needed for decades. Number 2. Kalinganagar, Odisha. China produces approximately 1 billion metric tons of steel every year. India produces approximately 125 million metric tons. That gap is one of the most significant numbers in the story of global manufacturing competition. Steel is not simply a construction material. It is the foundational input for automotive manufacturing, shipbuilding, infrastructure, defense, industrial machinery, consumer appliances, and the energy sector. The country that controls steel production controls the cost structure of everything that steel goes into. India is not going to close that gap overnight, but in Jaishankar district on Odisha's northern coast, India is building what may eventually become the most significant single challenge to China's steel dominance that the country has ever assembled. Kalinganagar Industrial Complex is India's largest integrated steel hub, a concentration of steel manufacturing capacity, downstream metal processing, and supporting industrial infrastructure that is growing in scale and sophistication with every passing year. The anchor investment at Kalinganagar is Tata Steel's Kalinganagar plant, one of the most advanced steel facilities in Asia. The plant's current capacity of 3 million metric tons per annum is already approved for expansion to 8 million metric tons, a scale that would make it one of the largest single steel plants in the world outside China. Tata Steel's choice of Kalinganagar was not arbitrary. The site offers a combination of mineral proximity, port access, and infrastructure that is difficult to replicate elsewhere in India. The raw materials, iron ore, coal, limestone, are available in abundance from Odisha's mineral-rich hinterland. The Paradip port, one of the largest deep-water ports on India's eastern coast, sits approximately 150 kilometers away, providing direct access to export markets in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. JSW Steel acquired the Bhushan Power and Steel plant at Jharsuguda in Odisha, adding further steel capacity to the state's industrial cluster. SAIL, the state-owned Steel Authority of India, operates facilities in the region. Ferro Alloys Corporation, FECOR, produces specialty alloys from Odisha's chromite deposits, materials that are critical inputs for stainless steel manufacturing and for the specialized steel grades required in aerospace, defense, and energy applications. The downstream significance of Kalinganagar extends well beyond raw steel production. Steel is most valuable not as a commodity, but as a processed material. The development of downstream steel processing capacity at Kalinganagar is what transforms a steel-producing region into a genuine manufacturing hub capable of supplying global supply chains. India's ability to grow Kalinganagar into a world-class steel hub is not simply an industrial story. It is part of the larger story of whether India can reduce its dependence on Chinese material inputs across the sectors that matter most. Dholera, Gujarat. There is one sentence that explains why Dholera matters a lot. The modern world runs on semiconductors. Semiconductors are the foundational material of the digital economy. Every smartphone, laptop, electric vehicle, industrial robot, medical device, defense system, and piece of telecommunications infrastructure requires chips manufactured from semiconductor wafers. The global supply of these chips is almost entirely concentrated in three places: Taiwan, South Korea, and China. This is not a theoretical concern. When the pandemic disrupted those supply chains in 2020 and 2021, car factories shut down, electronics companies missed production targets, and governments across the world confronted the reality of how completely they depended on a handful of facilities in a handful of countries for the material that everything else runs on. Dholera is India's answer to that vulnerability. Located in the Ahmedabad district of Gujarat and developed under the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor program, Dholera is India's first greenfield smart city built from bare land for the specific purpose of housing industrial-scale, technology-intensive manufacturing. The centerpiece project is India's first semiconductor fabrication plant, built by Tata Electronics in partnership with Taiwan's Powerchip Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, backed by an investment of over 91,000 crore rupees. The plant is designed to produce approximately 50,000 silicon wafers every month. These wafers are the raw material from which chips are cut, the chips that end up inside the devices, vehicles, and systems that the global economy depends on. When operational, this single facility will represent a fundamental change in India's position in the global technology supply chain. But semiconductor manufacturing is not simply a question of building a factory. It is one of the most demanding industrial processes in existence. A fabrication plant requires uninterrupted power supply. A single power outage can destroy an entire batch of wafers worth hundreds of crores. It requires enormous volumes of ultra-pure water. It requires a network of specialized chemical suppliers, equipment maintenance services, and logistics infrastructure capable of handling both the raw materials and the finished product with extreme precision. Building the factory without building the ecosystem around it would be like building a port without connecting it to roads. This is precisely what the Dholera development plan addresses. A 6-lane expressway connects the city to Ahmedabad, providing direct road access to one of Gujarat's most significant commercial centers. An international airport is under development within the city itself, giving manufacturers direct air connectivity to domestic and global markets. Underground utility corridors running beneath the city streets carry power, water, gas, and telecommunications infrastructure directly to industrial facilities, eliminating the unreliability that has historically hampered Indian manufacturing. a solar park planned for 5,000 megawatts of generating capacity, one of the largest renewable energy projects in the world, will supply the extraordinary power demands of semiconductor fabrication without depending on the national grid alone. Beyond semiconductors, Dholera is targeting electronics manufacturing, defense production, renewable energy equipment, and advanced manufacturing across multiple sectors. The logic is the same logic that made Shenzhen work. Build the infrastructure first, build it comprehensively, and the industries will come because the conditions will exist nowhere else in the country at the same level of readiness. Dholera is the most ambitious single industrial project in India's history. What it becomes over the next 2 decades will determine whether India can genuinely compete at the technology frontier of global manufacturing, or whether it remains a supplier to supply chains that others control. Number 4. AURIC, Aurangabad, Maharashtra. Every other city on this list is either under construction or in early phases of development. AURIC is already open for business. The Aurangabad Industrial City is India's first completed smart industrial city built under the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor program, and the significance of that cannot be overstated. AURIC is the proof of concept. It is the demonstration that India can actually deliver what its industrial city plans promise. AURIC spans over 10,000 acres in the Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar district of Maharashtra, positioned strategically between two of the country's most economically significant urban centers. Mumbai, India's financial capital and home to the country's largest port, lies approximately 350 kilometers to the west. Pune, India's fastest-growing manufacturing and technology hub, sits around 230 kilometers to the southwest. AURIC sits between these two cities on a corridor that already carries some of the most intense commercial traffic in India, and it sits inside a state, Maharashtra, that consistently ranks among the top 2 or 3 in the country for manufacturing output and foreign investment. The industrial sectors that AURIC targets reflect both Maharashtra's existing strengths and the global opportunities of the current moment. Automotive components are the foundation. The region around Aurangabad has been a manufacturing base for auto companies for decades, with Bajaj Auto operating one of its largest facilities nearby, and a network of Tier 1 and Tier 2 auto component suppliers already established across the district. When a new auto component manufacturer sets up in AURIC, it is not arriving in an industrial wilderness. It is joining a supply chain ecosystem that has been developing for 30 years. Pharmaceuticals represent AURIC's second major industrial strength. Maharashtra has long been one of India's most important pharmaceutical manufacturing states, and Aurangabad specifically has attracted investment from domestic and international pharmaceutical companies drawn by the region's infrastructure, workforce, and regulatory environment. Engineering goods, electronics manufacturing, and food processing complete the sector mix. A range broad enough to absorb companies from multiple global supply chains seeking to relocate production away from China. The infrastructure at AURIC is what separates it from conventional Indian industrial estates. Companies that arrive find roads already built, power connections already installed, water supply systems already operational, and telecommunications infrastructure already in place. The concept is plug-and-play manufacturing. A company can acquire land, begin construction, and reach production without spending years arranging the basic utilities that should have been there from the start. International companies including Hella, the German automotive lighting and electronics group, and Endres plus Hauser, the Swiss measurement and process automation firm, have already established operations inside the township. Their presence signals something important. AURIC has cleared the threshold of credibility that attracts serious global industrial investment. AURIC's operational status makes it perhaps the most important city on this list for a reason that has nothing to do with its own industrial output. Every global manufacturer evaluating India as a manufacturing destination will ask the same question. Has India actually delivered on its industrial city promises before? AURIC is the answer. The roads are there, the factories are running, the products are shipping. India's industrial city program is not just a collection of blueprints and ambitions. One of them is already open. Number 5. Ponneri, Tamil Nadu. In global manufacturing, location is not simply about being close to roads. It is about being close to the right roads. The ones that connect directly to ports, to supplier clusters, to major consumer markets, and to the logistics infrastructure that allows finished products to reach customers anywhere in the world at competitive cost. Tamil Nadu's manufacturing ecosystem has understood this principle for longer than most Indian states, which is why it has built one of the country's most consistently strong industrial bases, and why the Ponneri Industrial Township is positioned to become one of India's most significant export-driven manufacturing hubs. Ponneri is being developed as a 4,000-acre industrial township spanning portions of Chennai and Tiruvallur districts in Tamil Nadu, positioned under the Chennai-Bangalore Industrial Corridor program. The township's specific locational advantage is one that few industrial projects anywhere in India can match. It sits within reach of three major ports simultaneously. Chennai Port, one of the oldest and busiest ports on India's eastern coast, provides direct access to shipping routes connecting to South and Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and East Africa. Kattupalli Port, a newer deep-water facility north of Chennai, handles large container vessels with drafts that older ports cannot accommodate. Ennore Port specializes in bulk cargo, coal, iron ore, fertilizers, automobiles, and handles the specific freight categories that industrial manufacturing generates in largest volumes. Access to three separate ports with three different cargo specializations means that a manufacturer at Ponneri can route its outbound shipments through whichever port offers the best combination of cost, speed, and service for each specific product and destination. This routing flexibility, the ability to switch ports as shipping market conditions change, is a competitive advantage that manufacturers in single port locations simply cannot replicate. The industrial sectors targeted at Ponneri are built directly on Tamil Nadu's existing manufacturing strengths. Tamil Nadu accounts for approximately 40% of India's automotive exports, a figure that reflects decades of investment by Hyundai, Ford, BMW, Renault, Nissan, and a vast network of domestic and international auto component manufacturers in the Chennai region. The state accounts for over 41% of India's electronics exports, driven by Apple supplier Foxconn's facility near Chennai and by the growing network of electronics manufacturers that has clustered around it. Tamil Nadu's Defense Manufacturing Corridor, a 23,000 crore rupee investment program, is developing the state's aerospace and defense supply chain alongside its civilian manufacturing base. Ponneri is designed to absorb the expansion pressure that Tamil Nadu's existing industrial base is generating. Companies that have established operations in Chennai's older industrial areas and need to grow find themselves constrained by land availability, congestion, and the premium that proximity to a major city places on industrial real estate. Ponneri offers the planned infrastructure, the port access, and the connection to the Chennai-Bangalore Industrial Corridor that growing manufacturers need, with the added advantage of a greenfield site where the infrastructure is being designed for modern manufacturing requirements from the beginning, rather than retrofitted into an urban environment that was built for a different era. Number 6. Krishnapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Every major global manufacturing hub is built around a port. Shanghai's dominance in Chinese manufacturing is inseparable from its position as one of the busiest container ports on Earth. Singapore's entire industrial and commercial economy rests on its port. Rotterdam anchors European manufacturing supply chains. The principle is consistent across every successful manufacturing economy in modern history. The ability to move goods efficiently between factory and ship, and between ship and consumer, is not a secondary consideration in industrial location strategy. It is the primary one. Krishnapatnam, industrial smart city in Andhra Pradesh, is built on exactly this principle. The industrial city sits 5 kilometers from Krishnapatnam Port, one of the largest deep-water ports on India's eastern coast. The proximity is not incidental. The entire industrial city has been conceived as a port-led development, a manufacturing ecosystem where the port is not an adjacent facility, but an integral component of the industrial infrastructure itself. For manufacturers at Krishnapatnam, the distance between factory floor and ship's hold is measured in minutes rather than hours. The project spans nearly 10,500 acres and is being developed as a full-scale smart city with a target completion timeline for the first phase of 2028. Approximately 1,200 crore rupees has been allocated to infrastructure development in the first phase, with close to 350 crore rupees already spent on roads, drainage systems, power networks, and digital communication infrastructure. The investment projections for the full project anticipate approximately 10,500 crore rupees in total private investment and the creation of close to 98,000 jobs. Krishnapatnam's connectivity extends well beyond the port itself. National Highways 16 and 67 connect the industrial city to Andhra Pradesh's major urban centers and to the broader national highway network. Railway connections through Krishnapatnam and Nellore provide rail freight access for bulk cargo movement. Airports at Tirupati and Chennai provide air freight options for high-value, time-sensitive goods. The industrial city sits within the interconnected network of the Chennai-Bangalore and Visakhapatnam-Chennai industrial corridors, connecting it to manufacturing clusters in two of India's most economically active states. The industrial sectors targeted at Krishnapatnam span automotive and auto components, electronics, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, textiles and apparel, food processing, and engineering goods. The breadth of the sector list reflects the port's versatility. It can handle containers for finished consumer goods, bulk carriers for raw materials, ro-ro vessels for automobiles, and tankers for chemicals and liquid cargo. A manufacturing hub built around a port with this range of capabilities can serve supply chains across multiple industries simultaneously, reducing the vulnerability that comes from single-sector dependence. The smart city dimension of Krishnapatnam's development plan addresses the challenge that purely industrial zones have historically faced in India, attracting and retaining the skilled workforce that modern manufacturing requires. The project's master plan includes 16 residential zones, business centers, office spaces, schools, hospitals, retail areas, sports facilities, cultural infrastructure, walking and cycling tracks, green spaces, and waste management systems. A manufacturer that establishes operations at Krishnapatnam is not simply buying a factory plot. It is joining a city designed from the beginning to be a place where the workers it needs will want to live. Number 7. Vikram Udyogpuri, Madhya Pradesh. Vikram Udyogpuri occupies a position on this list that no other city shares. Every other city on this list has an obvious locational logic: a port, a technology cluster, a major highway corridor, a coast. Vikram Udyogpuri is being built 8 kilometers from Ujjain, one of the oldest and most sacred cities in India, deep in the heart of Madhya Pradesh, in a location that most industrial strategists would not have identified as a prime manufacturing target. And it is already working. The development is being built under the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor Program, spanning approximately 1,100 acres as an integrated industrial township. The locational advantage that is not immediately obvious from the map becomes clear when the surrounding industrial geography is examined. Ujjain sits within close range of Indore, Dewas, and Pithampur, 3 of Madhya Pradesh's most important manufacturing centers. Pithampur in particular has earned a specific distinction. It is called the Detroit of India. The automotive manufacturing cluster that has developed in Pithampur over the past 3 decades, encompassing car assembly, truck manufacturing, and an extensive auto component supply chain, makes it one of the most significant automotive production zones outside the traditional manufacturing states of Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Gujarat. A company that sets up in Vikram Udyogpuri is not building in an industrial vacuum. It is entering a regional ecosystem where automotive suppliers, engineering manufacturers, and industrial companies are already operating. The input supply chains, the logistics networks, the trained workforce, and the supplier relationships that a manufacturer needs to function efficiently already exist in the surrounding region. That existing ecosystem is one of the factors that has made Vikram Udyogpuri one of the fastest moving industrial cities on this list in terms of actual company commitments and production activity. Amul, the dairy and food processing cooperative that is one of India's most recognizable brands, is among the largest investors to have committed to the township. More than 60 companies have secured land allocations. Approximately 20 units are already in production, and several more are under construction. The pipeline of committed investment is real and growing. One of the most strategically significant components of Vikram Udyogpuri's development is its dedicated medical device manufacturing park, spanning 360 acres. India currently imports between 70 and 80% of the medical devices it uses. Most of that import volume comes from countries whose manufacturing competitiveness depends partly on advantages that India could replicate. 36 medical device and healthcare companies have already secured land in the park and are expected to generate approximately 7,000 jobs. The products being planned for manufacture range from self-testing kits in dental implants to wound care products, disinfectants, and sterilization equipment. The medical device sector is strategically important beyond its direct economic contribution. A country that manufactures its own medical devices is a country that controls the cost and availability of its own healthcare infrastructure. India is at an earlier stage of an ambitious journey with these 7 cities. What is different about this moment in India's industrial history is the simultaneity of the effort, all cities being developed at once. Whether India builds on them at the speed and scale the world's manufacturing realignment requires is the actual question.